Appendix D, Principal Procedures Governing the Provision of Air Support, Section 1. Aim. The annex details of the principal procedures associated with the movement of the air and part of the whole aircraft loads should be read in conjunction with the memorandum of understanding supporting technical arrangements. Section 2. Definition of the term annex defined as follows: payload and passenger freight, and authorize either participation, designated requested authority. The organization authorized under Annex B of the Technical Authority requests military airlift and requesting and participation transportation support services. Organization will provide with the air transportation designated operating authority. Organization authorized with Annex B of the Technical Authority to process the airlift, the request and arrange for the provision of air transportation, supply transportation, part of load, payload with the transportation would utilize the spare capacity with existing flight with the part loads carried on space available bases. A whole aircraft load requires dedicated aircraft to complete the task and should normally fully utilize and carry the capacity of the aircraft. Military aircraft and aircraft national and military registered. Section 3. Provision of air transportation. The provision of air transportation is the following requests received by the DRA, the provision authorized by the DOA, and the point of contact with the respective of the insertion of the DRA and the DOA. Detailed with Annex B, the technical arrangement. Payload can be transferred to the spare airlift resources under the control of the DOA. The DOA retains control over its assets. The passenger and cargo of the DOA have priority over the DRA payload. Section 4. Air Transportation Regulations. The air transportation regulation of the transportation services will apply with the movement of the part and the whole aircraft loads under the annex. The aircraft captain's authority with the paramount dangerous cargo may be carried provided with the following regulations apply with the ICAO, IATA, danger good regulation, national procedure if restricted, more restricted procedures are more restricted. NATO Stagnant 385-54 policies procedure governing air and transportation dangerous goods, specific disposition of the transportation service of the DOA, the rules and regulations transportation service of the DOA, the movement of the baggage apply classified with the freight and belonging with the participation be carried by the aircraft. Other participation provided with the DRA provides an escort appropriate of security classification. Section 5. Responsibility and principle of the DOA. Responsibility is limited to provide the air transportation from the Department of Air and loading the airport to the destination airport, unloading airport, make provision for the loading and unloading of the aircraft with an assistance from the DRA as agreed with on the case-to-case basis at the discretion of the DOA, obtaining the approval of the state's organization possible essential with the given the military airlift operation. Political consideration might mitigate with the against carriage and payload for the certain countries. In certain countries, obtaining approval may be delayed, and political consideration containing country questions, but both participation will keep each other informed of the progress and the request of the other states. The ARA must ensure the passengers have all necessary documentation, passport, visa, the vaccination certificate, all relevant customs documentation in respect of the health and international regulations has been prepared. Passengers are ready to load and embarkment of the Department of Air in accordance with regulation and transportation services. The cargo is unduly identified only in the airway bill. The precise address for the designation each container clearly marked with the exact details for the size, weight, and capacity. All documentation is completed in accordance with the transportation service. The DOA requirements particular care that should be taken over the completion of the safety certificates accompanying with the hazardous good, dangerous cargo is prepared with the transportation in accordance with the agreed regulations. The applicable inspection of the departure air for the prior to loading. The consignee received the message detailed information on the freight and shipment as well as the custom clearance declaration at the destination point. Customs and immigration health formalities are completed before collection of the freight, and furthermore, necessary authorization for shipment of the transit destination airfield is requested. Arrangements may be made shipment for the disembarkment, unloading aircraft to the final destination. Section 6. Finances. Financial provision of the airlift and the auspices with the arrangement specified with the general form therein is subject to the special consideration among participation of the detailed funding and accounting arrangement shown in the below. Additional missions costs and subject to the general consideration, landing fees and custom per diems, etc. Use of the military aircraft exchange transaction. A fundamental principle of the military airlift reciprocated in full with the provision of military airlift considered to be exchanged the transaction with the range parameters. Each of the annual review period, any imbalance with the excess of the range parameters will be deemed to be reimbursable. The arrangement parameter for any of the balance is initially set with the XX inserted with the agreed operating parameter. For the example, the XX hours will be subject to annual review of the coordinated board. Use of the aircraft operational parameters are to be recorded by the following categories. The whole aircraft lift to be per flying hour with the aircraft type of the flying of the time equivalent calculated in accordance with Appendix 1 with agreed with the parameters and balance set by XX, and as this will be subject to annual review. The passenger part loads per pax hour, the agreed parameters for the imbalance of the XXX or PAX hours will be subject to an annual review. The cargo power loads per ton hour. The agreed parameters in balance with the set XX. They're subject to any annual review. At the end of each annual review, which is over the imbalance, exceed the range agreed parameters of participation against the imbalances will be paid, and the sum of the imbalance for the XX days rate receive the invoice. The imbalance for the XXX percentage of the agreed parameters will be carried over the next accounting period. The value of the imbalance will be calculated agreed with the coordinated board. This has to be negotiated between participation and review annually. Participation may also agree with the reimbursement transportation service of cash and equal value exchange for the cash, but reimbursement of the DOA will submit invoice for the DRA and outline with the commercial outline below for the exchange of transaction between partial mutual agreement support supply service equivalent value to be transferred at the time of the frame to transfer the occur. One is fundamental price of the air transportation reciprocated in full. The air transportation considered with the exchange transaction agreed with the parameters of participation whenever possible to maintain the operating balances will be agreed parameters. 2 aircraft operating parameters recorded in the following categories: 4 whole craft aircraft loads, passenger repair loads, and 4 cargo part loads. When one parameter is excluded, no other further aircraft of the category will provide with the party exam imbalance with the coordinated board as met. Participation may be agreed with the reimburse the transportation service cash equal value exchange for the cash reimbursement. The DOA shall submit the invoice for the DRA outline with the commercial outline below for the exchange transaction between partial mutual agreement supplies and services equivalent to be transferred in the time frame for the transfer to occur, normally not to exceed 1 year for the provision of services. Use of commercial aircraft service reimbursement transaction. Also, civilian chartered aircraft will be treated in reimbursement transactions. Invoices will be raised with the DOA, submitted with the DRA. The payment of the XX day, the prior of the transaction, the DRA and the DOA will agree on the basis that the estimated cost will be incurred in accordance with the following: one direct whole and actual cost agreed, chartered rate, direct and part, the cost agreed and chartered rate to the point, number of seats, actual, indirect, and part, and the whole cost of agreed chartered rate and based on the number of seats allocated and the extra charge costs. Freight charter direct whole, actual cost with agreed and chartered rate, direct and part, the cost of agreed with the chartered rate upon the percentage paid load utilized, indirect and partial whole, cost agreed to chartered rate based on a percentage of the paid load utilized and the extra charge costs. Section 7, cancellation for the whole aircraft. A cancellation message from the DRA needs to be received with the DOA at 0900 Z's 2 working days prior to the flight. Exemption may be agreed with required for parts of loads requiring flight deviation. Cancellation messages need to be DOA'd by 900 hours at 1 working day prior to the flight. With the part loads required, no deviation cancellation be made at any time. Failure to cancel the loads required with the time will maintain the DRA and will be deleted, but the full agreed cost of the service charge will be waived at the sole discretion of the DOA, for example, the force majeure. The DOA responsible unable to carry out the mission previously agreed, it must be divided by the DRA without delay. In no such case, with the cancellation will lead to a claim for damage reimbursement other accrued charges. Section 8, Coordination. General overall coordination provision for air transportation provided with the coordinated board with the compensation detailed in Appendix 2 of the Annex. The coordinated board will be met when required annually about the anniversary to sign with the technical arrangements. Annual coordinated meeting. Annual meeting with the board shall be agreed with the outstanding balance for the air transportation exchange transaction completed during the previous 12 months. They evaluate the result of the cooperation from previous year, discuss all the relevant issues arising, proposed amendments to technical arrangements, and the annex prepare the request for receipt form based on the principle outlined in the technical arrangement. Cover the provision of mutual air transportation support in the following 12 months to open and account financial management purposes. D. The review parameters for the imbalances. Coordinated board meeting to resolve operation imbalances. When the overall imbalance exceeds the agreed parameters, the coordinated board will immediately determine how the imbalance is reduced. Operational necessary agree with the calculation value of the additional airlift required to agree to operating parameters. In the case will be reimbursement of the transaction. Routine coordinated every 3 months with the co-secretary of the coordinator and with the board will exchange the record completed exchange transactions. Section 9, Transportation Requests. Procedure. The procedure requesting air transportation, ATP 53A or NARAT. Air transportation relevant agencies will exchange routine air transportation schedules on both monthly basis to appropriate the national security restriction. Appendix 1 to D. Appendix 1 to D. Coordinated co-board insert and deck shall be represented with the coordinated board, co-chairman, co-secretary included here. Contact details of other representatives that agree with the co-chairman. Insert the nation representative, coordinated body, co-chairman, co-secretary included here. Contact details of other representative agreed with the co-chairman. This page is intentionally left blank. Appendix E. Principles of procedure governing the sea lift support.